Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to this week's video. In this week's video, we're going to continue on with the Dead Nation style shooter game. And in this video, we're going to just continue on from the previous video where we add in an SMG, and I'm going to add in some fog, just to give the area and the atmosphere a little bit more of a vibe. So basically, what we've got here is as you know, in the previous video, we've got the rifle. If we press F, we switch to a shotgun. And now if we press F, we've got an SMG, which will auto-fire. Release. We've not quite covered ammunition just yet. But also, you might be able to tell, there is actually a bit more of a haze as well. See that? Everything's just slightly a bit more moody. The fog there just really giving the atmosphere a bit more of a feel. Now obviously when you get a bit more sort of lighting and explosions and stuff in there, that'll obviously add to that fog, and it'll look even better. But for now, that's what we've got. And if you're not entirely happy with the way I've set that up, there are so many different things that you can just play around with. Instantly just change the density, get it nice and thick. You can change the fall off. But anyway, now I'm getting into things. Let's just crack on and let's get this set up. Okay, so let's get started. Let's get this set up. So first and foremost, let's get the SMG set up. I think that's probably the best place to start with because it's nice and simple. So what you want to do is go to your third person BP, open your blueprints and open up your character. Once you're inside your character, obviously let's navigate over to where we've started creating the other weapon mechanics, because we're going to add to that. And then in the previous video, what I noticed I haven't done is I haven't just commented around this to say shotgun weapon fire, basically. Not too sure why I didn't do that. Very simple, but nonetheless, let's just add that in there. So we've got the shotgun. I think actually what might be better is if we just copy the same style that we've done here. I have moved my microphone just a little bit closer as well today, so it is kind of in my way a little bit, so I do apologise if I type a little bit slower, but hopefully it doesn't affect me too much. Let's change shotgun to green or something. Right, let's do the SMG. So SMG, realistically, all we need to do is when we hold down the fire button, we need to fire a shot from the gun every set amount of seconds, or every 0.5 of a second, or something like that, depending on the sort of SMG that you can pick as a reference. You could decide its fire rate however you want, but essentially, yeah, as long as a round or a bullet comes out of the gun every so often when we're holding the button, and then stops when we release, we've got an SMG. So first and foremost, from the SMG, I'm just going to do what's called a timer by event. So what a timer allows you to do is, although a timer usually, when you think of a timer, normally you think a timer is going to count down or something like that. But in Unreal, a timer in this setting would be at a set period of time. Every time I'm going to do something, so it's almost like a looping timer. So for example, here we've got the event we want to do, the time between each time we do it, and then whether if we want to loop it or not. So you could essentially trigger this node, set 100 seconds, and then after 100 seconds it would do something. Or you could set it to like 1 second and select looping, and then every single second this is going to continue to fire an event. So you can see how this is going to help us here. So where I've ticked looping, let's just tick that, so then it's all set up. Now I roughly want to fire every 1 to 2 seconds, just so it's not crazy fast, but it's not slow either. So I'm going to go for 0.125. This works out at about 8 shots every second ish. Okay, so for the event, now Our vent really just wants to be a line trace, just like it is for the rifle. So while we're at the rifle, let's just highlight all of this and let's copy it, because there's no point recreating all that if we've already got it. Let's come back down here, let's paste, and then let's just place it just a little bit lower than this line, because what we're actually going to do, this event will fire from here rather than from here. Now that'll make more sense in just a minute. So let's just drag off the event, and then here we don't already have an event, so we can just type in custom, and this will allow us to add a custom event. For us, what we want to do is we want to fire our SMG. So I'm just going to simply do that. I'm going to say fire SMG, and then I'm just going to move this up a little bit just to make it neater, and I'm going to drag this into there. Down just a little. I like to keep the lines as straight as possible. So now what's going to happen is, if we press the fire button and we have SMG selected, our timer is going to fire every 0.125 seconds. And what it is going to fire is this fire SMG event, which is going to create a line trace, which is going to apply damage to whatever we hit. So obviously, because it's an automated weapon, we don't want to apply the same damage as a rifle. I'm thinking if we knock that down to like 0.3 maybe. So you need to do 3 or 4 shots on an enemy to get them, but because it's automatic, that should help. Obviously, I'm just typing in a random figure. You put a bit more effort into thinking about what is going to be the right damage for this type of gun, and you set that up. And do you know what? The SMG is pretty much finished. So just before we test it, let's just chuck a comment around it, and let's say, actually, let's copy again. And for no particular reason, I'm going to pick blue. Awesome. So this is going to continue to loop. Now, when we release our mouse button, we'd like it to stop. But at the moment, we're not really telling this to stop looping. It's just going to loop forever, in a sense. So one of the benefits of using a timer is you get this return value, and this return value is basically just a timer handler. And that allows you to manipulate this timer after you've set it off, after it's activated. But for us to sort of really benefit from using this, we want to promote it to a variable, and then we want to give it a name. And I'm going to put SMG timer. And then this SMG timer is going to allow us to use this in different places of our blueprint without making our blueprint look messy. So what I mean by that is, now I've got this variable here, time handle structure, which is our SMG timer. I'm going to drag that over here. I'm going to get it. And then one of the nodes that comes from a timer allows us to modify time. So we can invalidate it, which means it's essentially like a pause, like a stop. But there's a slightly better one called clear and invalidate, which means it completely resets it to 0, like it's never been fired ever before. And that's exactly what we want to do. So let's clear and invalidate. And this requires an input, which is brilliant because we want to set that to release. So what we've got now is when we press the button, we fire SMG, this starts a timer, which continues to fire this round until we release our fire button, which then clears that timer, preventing this from firing again. But hopefully that all works nicely. Let's just make this look a tiny bit nicer by double clicking and adding a reroute node. You can just pop that there. Just makes that look a little bit neater. Let's compile. Let's press play. And then if you remember, we've got the F key to switch to SMG, and now if we press and hold, we get this automated weapon fire. And then once we release, you can see now that the weapon has stopped. But if I click again, now it starts again. So that's it. That's all you need really for an SMG. Now, obviously, there are quite a lot of automated weapons. You could make an automatic shotgun with the same system. You could make automated rifles, just different fire rates, different damages. You could. Now, I don't know why this would be a benefit, but you could randomize this number. Maybe not with that. Sorry. You could do a random time. So you could say, I want you to fire anywhere between 0.1 second. Oh, what am I doing here? I'm trying to write with the wrong hand. Sorry. 0.1 to 0.3. I don't know why you'd do this, but this is something you could do. So now the shots are random, which is bizarre. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could. But what you could also do is you could set this up to, you have to think about this, you could set up a burst type weapon. So if you want to do like a burst fire weapon, you could have this fire like 3 times in a row after sort of like 0.5 of a second between each shot, and then you could delay it for a second to get that burst. Yeah, you could use this with a combination of a few other things to make a whole set of weapons. So I hope that was useful. So let's move on to the volumetric fog now. Well, actually, I'm going to take the word volumetric back there, because it is and it isn't. I've actually looked at doing sort of like localized fog, and by that I mean you could just have like an area of fog just here. That video itself is probably going to be about half an hour, because there is quite a lot involved in it. There's a few things we need to set up to make sure that it's optimized well, because fog can really slow down a machine if it's not made well. But to get us started, what I've noticed is Dead Nation has like a constant background sort of smokiness, like a fogginess. Now, it does get thicker from time to time, which we could probably automate depending on where we're going. But to get started, let's just start out with that constant background haziness. So what we're going to use is we're actually going to use an exponential height fog, which you can see here in the left. I've recently used, but that's under, I believe, visual effects. Yep, so there it is. Under visual effects, you've got exponential height fog. And if you drag that in, you'll notice now that the background's gone sort of like this weird hazy blue. It's lightened everything up. And that's because of our fog color. So let's get that changed. Let's change the fog color. I changed mine to more of a white with a bit more of a red tinge, and I just darken it just a little bit. Just so it's there, but it's not like punching us in the face type of thing. Also for the fog density, you can change this anywhere. I think 10's really the maximum you'd ever want to go, because you can't see anything. It's just absolutely chocker fog. The whole scene's completely like destroyed by fog in a sense. You pull it back to 5, you can see it's just sort of coming back to life, and this is where sort of our localized fog is going to work out better, because it's just going to be in certain areas. It might just wrap around this car just a little bit where there's maybe been like a car fire or something like that. Probably not even getting it that thick. I probably might go to like a 3 or a 2 in an area. That might be better. However, so I'd say that with the fog density of 2, we're getting closer to sort of like a usable fog. I had mine set to like 0.7, which it's foggy, but it's not sort of like really destroying visibility. So it's just enough for sort of like a background fog. But we've not finished yet. There are other things that we're going to do. Now the fall off, that is how the density changes over time, and not over time. High density factor controls density increases as height decreases. Smaller values make the visibility transition larger. I don't think that explains much. However, with a fall off of 1.5, I feel that that gives us enough of a depth, but mainly in the distance, so it keeps you sort of like, it gives the distance a bit of a fog, but the closer to the camera it's not as thick, just as that falls off a little bit. We've also got opacity, which I like to change to 0.5 because it brings a bit of that gloomy background back in. And then start distance. Now this is something that you can play with whether you want to or not. I'm just going to move the camera back over here. Essentially what it does is, the start distance is where does the fog start from the camera. So because the camera is kind of above the character, the start distance is going to be a lot greater than if to use like an FPS template or something like that, where the camera is following the character behind. So if we were here throughout the game, this distance is going to be a lot shorter, but because we're doing a follow camera, the distance that I found as a nice distance was about 900. And what you'll do is you'll see the area around the camera where we are clears up a little bit. If I change this to 500, you'll see that it gets foggier closer to the camera. You might not have just sensed that a little bit, so let's change this to 1500, and you'll see that now there's almost like a line here where the fog is starting. So all this is kind of clear, the fog is sort of in the distance. I wanted to keep that quite close to the character, but not too close to the camera, so 900 was really my magic number. So it's kind of light down here, but it's thicker in the distance. I think 1200 was also another nice number, where it's quite clear where the character is, but you can still see that there's a bit of a haze distance over there. You can still see that them characters are in somewhat of a fog, but it's not blinding. But 900 was my preferred number because it gives everything kind of like a foggy feel to it. Now, what you can also do is, if we scroll down on the right, we can actually enable volumetric fog. Now, volumetric fog sort of fills in some gaps a little bit, and you'll be able to see that in just a minute when I tick the box. But there are a few things you need to know. With volumetric fog, a few of the other settings that we've changed, like start distance, fog opacity, and the cutoff, are not supported by it. The volumetric fog does give the scene a bit more of a natural feel. So let's tick it now, and you can see that it fills in these gaps. The light is scattered better by the fog, and I think it does give the scene more of a natural gloomy look, where the light bounces through the fog a lot better. If we press play now, you can see how my torch is kind of like, the light is almost sticky in a way. Now this might not be coming through on the recording as nice as it is in the game. You kind of get this gloomy, lit up luminous, and I think it gives the scene a really, really nice vibe. It really does like fill the atmosphere with fog, and I really like how this looks. However, it might not be the effect that you're going for at this time, but like I said, I am going to be posting another video about localized fog, so you can basically put a cloud inside the map, so you could create like a smoky effect just around the car rather than the entire map. But as a base, this is really what I wanted to get out. I wanted to get just sort of like an entire level fog, because there is kind of that smoky vibe throughout Dead Nation. It does subtly change in areas where it clears up a little bit, which I might work into sort of like making area based densities. But nonetheless, for a starter, I hope this helps you out. If you like the video, please consider giving me a like. If you want to see more content, consider subscribing. The people commenting on the previous videos, I hope this helps you, and I really do appreciate that your ongoing support. I've got a Discord channel if you want to come and chat. The links should be working now. I do believe on some previous videos I had some expired links. I've now set those to permanent. Hopefully in this video the link to Discord should work absolutely fine. There are some other social links down below, so if you want to support me or come and see me on some of those other sites, such as Twitch, please do so. Enough rambling from me. I'm going to end the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Thank you.